Hello and welcome to IGPP Expert Talks. I'm Heena Goswami, Editorial Consultant with IGPP, Institute for Governance, Policies and Politics, New Delhi. As emerging technologies are changing the way we exist, interact, and comprehend realities, Indians are at the forefront to ensure that we make the best of these technologies for humankind. At IGPP Expert Talks AI Special Series, we are very lucky to be joined by one such pioneering individual, Mr. Vivek Wadhwa. Mr. Vivek Wadhwa is an academic, entrepreneur, and author of 5 best selling books, from Incremental to Exponential, Your Happiness Was Hacked, The Driver in the Driverless Car, Innovating Women, and The Immigrant Exodus. He has been a globally syndicated columnist for the Washington Post and has held appointments as Distinguished Fellow at Harvard Law School's Labor and Work-Life Program, Carnegie Mellon University, and Emory University. He is also an adjunct professor at Carnegie Mellon and Duke University, fellow at Stanford Law School and UC Berkeley, and head of faculty at Singularity University. In 2012, the US government awarded Mr. Wadhwa distinguished recognition as an outstanding American by choice for his commitment to the country and common civic values that unite Americans. Welcome to IGPP Expert Talks.
It's good to be talking to you.
We're very happy to have you here.
By the way, now I've become an entrepreneur. I'm now CEO of Vionix Biosciences.
Yes.
I stopped teaching.
Why don't we start with your how you got into medical diagnostic is one of your passions, right? How did that journey start?
Because I lost my wife to cancer. I mean, she was everything to me, and living in Silicon Valley, living in America, having access to the top scientists, top hospitals, we couldn't save her. I mean, literally, I had a who's who ready to help me, including pharmaceutical companies, the heads of them. I had every resource available. Couldn't save her. So basically, I did. My wife was a Sadhana. She gave me very clear instructions saying, look, by the way, help others. She basically gave me my marching orders. Make sure no one suffers the way I did. That was, what I understood. So I said, okay, let's cure cancer. Because I teach advancing technologies about what they're making possible. And I knew that curing cancer is a data problem. That every cancer is unique. It's like a fingerprint. Every fingerprint is unique. Every cancer is unique. And to cure it, we need to be able to understand its root causes. We need to be able to understand its patterns. We need to be able to understand what it works. And we need to be able to understand what it is. To be able to correlate the genome with your lifestyle habits and medications and God knows what else. It's a data problem. Now, data is not available in the West. It's a corrupt medical system. It's all for profit. No one shares data. India is a gold mine of data. Right? And India is not obsessed with for profit. India is trying to solve real problems. I mean, an emphasis of everything we do here is social welfare, helping the poor, uplifting. These aren't things you hear about in Silicon Valley. They care more about making money than anything else. So India has what it needs to do it, and this is why I started learning up about cancer and what was needed to cure it. And I helped launch Karkanos Healthcare. Some amazing people here, in India, were building a platform for treating cancer. So I asked them to start gathering data as well. And so I helped launch that. That's how I got into it. And then I learned another horrifying thing, that almost every case of cancer in India is stage 4. Why is it stage 4? First of all, it's a taboo. If you have cancer, you'd rather die than anyone know about it. And then also that you can't afford, we can't afford the medical diagnostics here. In India, in the USA, a Foundation One report, a genetic sequence costs thousands of dollars. Getting tests like Grail, $1,000. It's covered by medical insurance for many people in America, not everyone. But in India, how can you afford that kind of testing? So people die and they suffer. So I chose to, I said, okay, let's figure out if I can solve that problem. So that's why I launched Vionix, to disrupt the entire medical diagnostics industry, to look at diagnostics differently, not to focus on genome sequencing or what I call immunoassays, the traditional way of doing blood testing, but to use advancing technologies to look at it in a completely different light. In other words, what we're doing is we're ionizing the fluid, whether it be urine, blood, or saliva, or water, ionize it, turn it into atoms, capture the light spectrum, and then use artificial intelligence to analyze it. What's happened is that because of AI, we can now understand all sorts of data that we couldn't do before. Human beings can only deal with small data sizes, small samples. AI can deal with massive, massive data sets, and it doesn't forget like human beings do. So that's the technology that I'm building. This is why I became an entrepreneur again, to solve a problem.
India has a rich culture, diverse population, a young demographic. Other than data, how else do you think India is uniquely positioned to take advantages of the emerging technologies?
Right now India has an inferiority complex. This is the legacy of the British, that we were always second class, third class citizens, sucking up to our white masters. Right? India has more deep tech, more scientific knowledge, more mathematics knowledge, and it has a culture that cares about humanity. This is India's unique strength. We have deep tech here than we do in the West, right? So every ingredient you need to be able to solve global problems is in India. This is why I moved my company from Silicon Valley to India, and this is why I decided that the first solutions I'm going to build are for India. So not even blood for the moment. The low-hanging fruit for us is water. That India is basically toxic. You can't get water anywhere without having harmful chemicals and elements and God knows what else in it. Because testing water is also very expensive. It takes days to take a water sample, send it to a lab, and get a report of the 10 things that they think are in it. With our technology, you'll be instantly be able to, literally within 30 seconds, know exactly everything that's in that solution. Every element, every organic compound, everything. And the cost is almost zero. So we're going to start testing the waters across India. And all of this is made possible using AI and Indian ingenuity, Indian deep science. So I'm living what I would talk about.
You've raised three critical questions about emerging technologies, and those relate to equitable benefits, risk-reward trade-offs, and autonomy versus dependence. How do you evaluate artificial intelligence through this lens, through these three questions?
You're referring to what I wrote in my book, Driver the Driverless Car.
Yes.
The book covered everything from artificial intelligence to quantum computing. I wrote it so that grandma could read it as well as her grandchild.
Somebody like a historian, yeah.
Because what I tried to do was to simplify each technology, artificial intelligence, sensors, networks, drone technologies, synthetic biology, and explain what these technologies make possible. And then, what I explained was that every technology can be used for good and it can be used for evil. The original technology was fire. Fire can be used to keep us warm, it can be used to cook food, or it can be used to burn down houses and destroy. Every single technology has always been like that. So I went through each of the technologies in the book and I explained the good and the bad. At the end of it, I said, look, we now have a choice between the utopian future of Star Trek, where all of our wants and needs are met, and humanity is working together to explore the heavens. And it's a utopian dream. And the other extreme is Mad Max. Mad Max is when the whole world is burnt down and you have these gangs going around killing and nothing is safe. Both of those are possible right now. Because as with AI can be used to detect diseases like I'm doing. It can be used to make cities more efficient, more effective. It can be used to teach children. It can be used to build robots and drive our cars. Or AI can be used to manipulate and to create dissension and to literally destroy humanity because of all the power it gives you. I mean, and both things happening at the same time. So the question you have to ask with every technology is, first of all, do the rewards outweigh the risks? Are the rewards of AI worth the risks of now it being used for crazy things, for hacking, endangering security, for all these destructive purposes? I would argue that yes, it is. The second thing is, does it benefit everyone equally? what would happen is that if AI was only available to the elite few, let's say in the West, and the rest of the world didn't have it, or even in the West, it's not even blanket, it's the rich versus the poor. Right? So you go and watch any of these science fiction movies. What happens in every case where you have the rich having something good and the poor not having it is the poor end up killing the rich. Right? Because that's what always happens. Because after a while, the imbalance becomes so great that the masses rise up. This is why we keep talking about equality. This is why people worry about the widening gap between the rich and the poor in India and all over the world. Because if it becomes too wide and the poor don't have anything, then they're going to kill the rich. Now, in India, unfortunately, the poor are being uplifted also. And yes, the rich are getting richer faster. But the fact is that still the poor are being uplifted, and we're trying to share the prosperity. So if you can share the prosperity, then it's worth it. And then the third question is, does it lead to autonomy or dependence? Well, with AI, you're going to have self-driving cars pretty soon, which means that human beings won't be driving anymore. Now, is that good or bad? What happens if your AI decides not to take you somewhere? It decides to become disobedient. Or you have an emergency, you have to drive a car. You don't know how to drive a car. Your children don't know how to drive. Right? If you have children, you're so young. but the point is that if you grow up not having driven a car and the car doesn't drive, you're screwed. Right? So that is the question that do we become so dependent on technology that we lose the ability to think ourselves? So those are the things we have to ask with every technology. With AI, the question is, are we going to use it sensibly? I don't know the answer to that. This is something that society has to, understand and build a consensus on.
India is still starting its AI journey, and it is sort of lagged behind US and China. I mean, it makes sense. But the question now arises is that when we are starting to build, pour our capital into this emerging technology, how do we do it? Do we start building a foundational model?
I'm going to contradict you, stop you right there. What you said about India being behind, false. Yes, a handful of technology companies in the USA were able to raise big money and build foundational models. And yes, China stole the technology from the West. They literally, re-engineered what America had done, and the government funded a bunch of, companies to replicate the Western model. So all they did was cut and paste and steal and improve it, and that also with government funding. The rest of the ecosystem, India is as far ahead as everyone else is. If you look at its financial infrastructure, it's better than anything in the world. In China, you also have digital infrastructure, but it's controlled by a couple of companies which are under government control. So India's is a much better system. So AI, there's AI R&D happening all over the country. They're using it for different purposes. When I started Vionix, Chris Gopalakrishnan, one of the founders of Infosys, he told me that, Vivek, one of the problems you're going to have is you won't find the AI talent you need here. Well, he was wrong. Because all I had to do was, for example, I had 2 interns out of Guru Gobind Singh College here in Delhi, as they had done a machine learning class. Within 3 months, they were at par with the top developers in Silicon Valley. It's new technology, and everyone in the world is learning it. So India has everything it needs. There's nothing holding it back.
It's very refreshing to hear that, because what we have learned so far is that India lags behind because we don't have
this is
AI.
The inferiority complex that this country has. This is why I get so upset when we talk about the Britishers. This is, to me, is the white colonial masters teaching Indians that they're inferior. Indians are not inferior. Indians led the world in science and technology and culture and values. India literally ruled the world. It was looked up to. The Sone ki Chiriya. It led the world in all of these things. And it's the same people. It's the same depth of knowledge and culture and values that the country has. Why have an inferiority complex? Don't buy this bullshit that you're reading about China and the USA. There's more AI talent in India by our order of magnitude than there is in the United States. And China, like I said, it's government controlled and it's being used for evil more than for good. So write that off altogether. We're not competing with China. We're now competing with the West.
And I also feel that whereas in West or even in China, power, the technology, the good things, the fruits remain in a few hands. Where in India, you can be assured that they'll always be distributed amongst the masses, and humanity as a whole will progress.
Because the difference is that here, when people become successful, they don't have, this is like new money versus old money. When you can tell, even here socially, when someone makes a lot of money, suddenly they have to show off about it. The same thing happens in social circles here. That the people who have the depth, who always come from well-to-do, they don't have to show off anymore. They give back. They very quietly, help others. They launch foundations. They, and they don't have to, to show off about it. They don't need big press announcements or big parties or things like that. So China has a lot of new money, and you're seeing a lot of, it out of control affluence. And then the worst thing in China is government, evil government, controlling everything. In the USA, it's the same thing. You have a lot of very good people who are just quietly giving back. The people who always had it. The brash young ones who suddenly made money, who've never seen money before, they start showing off about it. So this is a dynamic at play across the world.
To make the best of what we have, are we lacking? Are we lacking? Are we able to make the best of what we have, or are we somewhere maybe not able to do that?
There are two Indias. You've got the greedy, selfish, egotistical, arrogant India, and then you've got the cultural, the deep spiritual knowledge India. They both coexist. So if we can now get the people with the right spiritual values to use technologies and to distribute it equally, India wins. If not, then you have Mad Max happening here.
You also argue that the next revolution in AI or the next wave of AI would not be models, it would be AI platforms and agentic AI. Please tell us a little about that.
Well, the focus has been about the foundational models, the deep sleeps and so on. Think of it like the operating system. Microsoft Windows, Apple, Linux and so on. Yes, you have some Western companies controlling that. But India built a $200, $300 billion IT industry by solving problems. India didn't need to build the semiconductors or even the operating systems. So that's what's happening with AI. The foundational models are the plumbing. Who cares what? Let the US and China compete and build the plumbing. The beauty of it is it's now all being open sourced. So they'll do it, and then you come and build layers on top of that. You build the solutions on top of it. You use it to do good for the world. So this is why I've been pushing the Indian government and the Indian ecosystem to just forget about trying to compete with the USA and China on the wrong things. Let's now use AI for good. So agentic technology is really on top of the models, automating the entire process for you. That you want to book a hotel reservation, or you want to do a research project. Put all the steps, controlling all the workflows essentially, workflow management, and automating it and having the AI do the work for you. So that's what India should focus on, is the solutions. Solutions are where the money is. Yeah, yes, Microsoft made a lot of money, but Microsoft makes the majority of its money right now on the layer about the operating system. They're not making much money on Windows. They're making much money on everything that's on top of that. Or that's what the platforms enable you to do. So what I would suggest to India is now come up with problems that need to be solved. There are billions of problems here. I mean, everything from this operating of cities to social welfare to education. I mean, to solving medical issues and everything. There's data, but no one knows what to do with it. Well, let's now use AI to understand the data and to inform policymakers, industrialists, managers on how to be more effective and build better solutions.
As an entrepreneur now, you have a taste of the ground realities in India about how investment, how policies hamper or promote innovation. Any policy recommendations for the government, for startups, for investors, and for
I have the advantage of being a foreigner, and everyone's being nice to me. So I haven't faced the thing except, I decided to raise some. Chris Gopalakrishnan wanted me to raise some money from here, India also, and I did. And I tell you, nightmare after the Reserve Bank of India. It's not even the U.S. Indian government. It's the Reserve Bank of India. All these archaic regulations. Oh my God, months. I've lost months now trying to just include a handful of Indian investors in my round, whereas I could have raised 100 times more money in Silicon Valley without any of this hassle. You can get a deal paperwork signed and the money is in your bank account the next day. Literally within a week, you can get a financing close. Here, 4 months and I haven't been able to get this stupid financing closed. So regulations, this red tape, all of this babudam, it needs to go. If the government is serious about transforming India, get a Doge in here. Like Elon Musk, the way he's cutting government, cut government to shreds, starting with the regulations. You don't need these British era regulations. You just need to cut it to shreds and bring in the real country's values. And then you look at it if you're reforming the bureaucracy. You don't want to have all these babus trying to justify their own existence and take their corrupt commissions and things like that. Cut it all down to bits. Create lots of jobs. But what you do is because India has to create employment. Let's have government schemes to build new cities. There's so much land in India. Well, let's throw away some of the old cities and build brand new modern cities from scratch. And let's let the poor move there, rich move there. There's things like that. There can be mega projects which improve the country, which improve sanitation, which improve the water supplies and so on and so on. So put people to work on meaningful things, not on babus and regulations and the old way of doing things.
What about startups? And not just those working in the tech field, but even the bigger ones, the large ones.
Yeah, my message to startups is solve real problems. Stop watching Shark Tank. Shark Tank is the worst thing that happened to India because everyone's trying to create the same stupid brain dead, food processing companies or delivery companies or all this nonsense that they keep seeing on TV. They need to now figure out what the problems are of their communities, of their country, and say, okay, how do we solve them? Where can we get access to all the scientific knowledge we need? Go to your local universities, you'll find lots and lots of deep science over there. So use your intellect for doing good for the world.
And as a former academic, your advice to the academic institutions in India?
Cut your stupid regulations because you have the same problem here that you have in the USA that universities have become like governments. They keep becoming bloated and building bureaucracy and building their own babudam. Get rid of all of that. Focus on teaching, number one, imparting knowledge. Number two, on researching and learning and growing. And then using technology to improve the processes because technology is going to happen. Well, get ahead of it. Start using AI to help you with your education. For example, there's a lot of hesitation right now about AI in the classroom, about using ChatGPT to generate essays. You can do that. So the same thing happened with calculators. That at first, when university schools were fighting calculators, you can't have a calculator there. You can't have a computer there. You can't have a smartphone there. Now it's okay. You can't have ChatGPT there. Wake up, academia. Wake up, government. It's going to happen. Let's now start teaching students how to use it effectively.
You argue that we need to focus on application of AI and to find solution to our problems. But regarding foundational models, there's also this problem that the political atmosphere is rather unstable. Countries like USA are turning more protectionist. What if they argue that one fine day we oppose one of their policies and they say that tech corporations we cannot use their models? Then what would we do? For this purpose?
Models have become open source. DeepSeek is open source. You can get the source code for it and build Indian DeepSeek. Okay. Because the one reason why India needs foundational models is to, for example, for Sanskrit, right? Foundational models can't understand Sanskrit. It's a completely different architecture. Well, so India may need to adapt. You could essentially take the code for Llama, which is Meta's technology, and for DeepSeek, and develop a Sanskrit-enabled version of it. So you just still need to do some work on it. But other than that, once it's open source, it's available to anyone. Government can't stop it. So let them spend all the big money and do it, and make everything more efficient and do things the Indian way.
Thank you so much, sir. And it makes me immensely proud that you have come back to India to find a solution to India's problems and a very Swadesh kind of moment.
Well, this is why my technology is made in India, for India, and then the rest of the world.
Thank you so much for joining us, sir, today.
All right.